I had a dream. In this dream, I had the power to create anything my heart desired. Crafting applications beyond the scope of imagination. And these applications were flawless, free of issues, and effortlessly modifiable. And there were solutions resolving an inconceivable problem. In this place, everyone was happy, especially me. Unfortunately, the break of the dawn marked the end of this dream. However, I sometimes sense a shared aspiration among us, a collective yearning to transfer this dream into reality. And for those who have this ambition, I hold a secret formula. And these, my fellow developers, sorry. So I hold this secret formula, and it looks like that. Create a finite amounts of components, and from those components create bigger structures called functionalities. And from those structures create even bigger ones called applications. And from those create even bigger ones, entities called corporate systems. And these, my fellow developers, is the essence of something called modularity. And this secret formula answers the question how to write modular code. So basically, I could finish the presentation here, but there is a catch. Everyone seems to know how to do this, but almost no one truly knows how to do this. In this presentation, I will show you how to bring this dream into reality. My name is Marcin Ludwig. I am principal developer at software house from Poland called Spiresoft. I'm programming since 12 years professionally, and I'm specialized in front-end architecture. I also lead a front-end architecture channel on YouTube. You can find me at front-end architecture name, where I'm speaking about JavaScript, front-end architecture, business communication, project management, team leadership, and a few more. I also released some time ago a free ebook, which I'm sharing the knowledge how to structure your applications, and you can download this ebook from projectfrontend.pl website. Links will be attached at the end of the presentation. There are only two hard things in a computer science: caching, validation, and naming things. Phil Carton said once. Well, I will agree with this partially. I think that there is one additional, even maybe harder thing in a programming, which is defining boundaries. But before I will answer the question why it is so hard, first we have to speak about one more very important thing, which is very important in a context of today's presentation, which is modularity. And it's called domain-driven design. DDD, in a short, it's like a way of designing applications where you should focus on business aspects of your business. So, in ideal scenario, at the end, you'll get your code will match the business processes, and you'll use the language that your business is operating. But there is a few problems with DDD. But first, I will ask you a few questions. Does anyone works with DDD right now? Whoa, not too many. Okay, how many of you would like to start working with DDD, but doesn't know how to even start? Okay, how many of you will agree with this? DDD is hard. Okay, I also agree with this. But why? Why this DDD is hard? Well, there are many reasons. First of all, there are a lot of definitions related to that. like a banded context, domain, subdomain, aggregate, entity, value object, and naming just few. But even more, we'll know those definitions, and it's pretty hard to understand those definitions, even if you read Rick Evans' book. But this isn't the hardest thing in DDD. There are even bigger problems. And to answer that, let me share a story. So let's assume that you own a company which is building a house. So, and you gather a new client, and this client would like to new house to be built. But if you speak with this client, he has no idea for whom this house will be. Do we have like a family there, maybe friends living there, or maybe whole company? At that moment, he don't know. So what you are doing, you start building a house, and more or less you will get something with this. Unfortunately, this wasn't the thing that client wanted, but he has a lot of money, so he paid for a renovation, and you build the house that he needed. But there is another problem. The client came back to you after 1 year, and he said, okay, right now I would like this house to be a skyscraper. Well, in a building industry, those things aren't happening almost no time. But in a programming, this is happening all the time. And basically, we have two problems here. First, we have to gather the business knowledge, the essence of the business, how the business is working, and what they are processes, and etc. And there is another problem. We have to adapt to the change. So we have to develop our code to be able to change fast, and in an environment that we don't know, that in a way we can't predict. So are we doomed? Can't we like write good applications? Well, there are people who are doing this, and there are solutions for that. And for the first one, we have something called event storming. Event storming is like a color paper for odors, but instead of images, you have a business process to discover, and instead of markers, you are using color stickers. And at the end of this process, you should get understanding, or you should get all the processes in your business, and you should be able to map those processes into your code. That is an ideal situation, but there are a few problems with that solution. First, to do this, you have to know how to do this. So you have to at least read books and figure out how to work with that. And even though you have all people or all teams that will know how to do this, there's another one problem. If you fuck up with this, then well, probably your business won't agree to do this process once again because they waste their time. So we have to have experienced people, but there is also another problem with this solution. The problem that almost no one is speaking about. Basically, your business has to know what its business is doing. Maybe obvious, but it's not always true. So let me share with you a story. Let's assume you are working in a startup company, and this startup company is doing very innovative product, and your business doesn't know how this product will look like in a year, in a 6 months, in a 3 months, or even in a month. So if you use event storming, well, probably you will get some information, and this information will be as follows. Your business isn't ready for event storming yet, which maybe isn't the best information when you would like to introduce DDD in your company. So, can we have any other solutions? Yes, we have. There is a solution, naive solution called bottom to top, which in ideal situation looks like that. Build mental model of your business, then write some code, then validate this model, then refactor, validate the model again, repeat the process until you will be sure that the model is correct, and then extend the business knowledge of this model and start the cycle again. But there is one problem with this. It is very hard to implement and in most of the cases. So what we get instead? So first we start writing the code. And then we are writing more code, and more code, and more code. And after some time, let's say about a year, 2 years, 6 months, we finally gather the knowledge, we finally know how the business works. So right now we can validate the model. And in ideal situation, we'll do a refactor. But the problem is that very often this refactor will take a lot of time, like a few weeks, maybe a few months to do. So we end with something like that. So instead of refactoring, we start writing the code and repeat the cycle again. And we are doing this once again, and until we will build applications so big that we can't add new functionalities in a reasonable time, and we have to rewrite it. But what if? What if there would be a solution? When could we iterate faster? What if there will be a solution that our code structure could help us with that? So let's see how this could look like. First, we are writing the code, and then we are validating the model. Furthermore, our code is validating this model, so we can't introduce the change because our code doesn't allow for that. So we have to extend our business knowledge. So we are going to our business and speaking with them about this. And right now, we could do the refactor and validate the model once again. And if the model is valid, we can start the cycle again. And if we will do this very often, like at least once per sprint, maybe even a few times in a sprint, then it will be unnoticeable. It will be like a constant refactor, and everyone will be happy. So we know what to do, but until we will answer or speak about how to do this, first we have to speak about tools. Because for this, we'll need a tool that will have few requirements. First, it has to manage relations. So let's say that we have a few libraries in our code, and we would like to set up relations in a specific way that those libraries could import other libraries, but it shouldn't be impossible in another direction. And this tool should support us with that. Furthermore, this tool should improve our refactor. So we should iterate very fast, and this tool should support us with that. And lastly, we should we should be able to visualize those changes. Maybe this is the most important thing, because if you will visualize all relations in your code, then you could go to your business, think about these differences, those nuances, and figure out why this is happening. It might look as that, maybe it is pretty complex at first, but this tool should allow you to zoom, to even check specific relations on a specific library. And there was a presentation today about this tool, 2 presentations ago. This tool has also much more functionalities, and it's called NX. So let's speak about how to do this. And I like simple things, so let's start simple. Let's start with 2 domains, main domain and shared domain. And if you will go to the directory level, let's split our application in 2 directories, apps and libs. And as you may already figure out, in applications you can have multiple applications. But why? First, this is a requirement from NX. If you would like to set up those relations between multiple libraries, then you have to split your code into multiple small projects. Project is a terminology from NX. So project, it's like a module, component, whatever you call it. So let's say we splitted it, And there is an additional benefit. So let's say that we have right now our application with 3 business features. And right now, business would like to introduce a new application, but use one of those features and maybe add to another 2. In an old way, we'll probably say something like that. Okay, it will take a few months. But with this approach, it might take a few days. Because you're dividing your code into a lot of small libraries, and you can build your applications like HTML from blocks. So, how to do this? So, we speak about already that we should split our code in a multiple folders. So, and if you are speaking about a library folder, it might look like that. So, let's put there 2 domains, main domain and shared domain. But if you start adding additional folders in a random order or not connected to each other, you may end with something like that. That everything will be speaking to everything, and it will be very hard to figure out what those relations are. But NX has a solution. It's called tags. Tag is a simple string, but there is a very high power in these tags, because right now we can tag every project, and you can set up relations on those projects. So you can, for example, have 2 groups of different items or different projects, and let's say that one group of those projects will be able to import or use another group of those projects, but it won't work in another direction. And NX will throw an error if you will break this rule. How we could do this? Well, how could we improve our previous example? Well, we could use some architecture pattern, like maybe clean architecture or some kind of layered architecture. And NX also has proposition for that, so let's split our, so add few folders to our solution. So as you can see, there are 4 layers, feature, UI, data access, and it looks like that upper layers can import those on the bottom. So feature can import UI, UI can import data access, and data access can import utils. And if we add tags there, then it will look like that. So we have like a simple prefix, and after that prefix, we have a type. But still, this doesn't solve all the issues. It is possible to do something like that. So from main domain, I can import things in another domain. So for example, from feature, I can import UI. Maybe in that case, it is okay. But in that direction, I think it's not. So how we could solve this? I didn't mention before, but tags mechanism is multi-dimensional. So you could think about it like a multiple dimensional array or many axes on a chart. So let's put it. So right now we have like a one level. So we have feature, UI, data access, and utilities. And let's add domains. And if we put everything together, it looks like that. And if we put that to the code, it will look like that. But it's not all. There are a few problems with the solution, and if you start implementing that, sooner or later we'll discover a few. So let me show you an example. Here we have 3 components, component A, 2, and 3. And those components are importing each other. So component 1 is importing component 2, component 2 is importing component 3, component 3 is importing component 1. And this is called circular dependency. As you may already think, it is pretty simple to discover. And this case is pretty simple. But let me show you something more complex. And we have circle, but some of you may already saw this, but the relations are in different order. And the more small libraries will have, the harder it will be to find those circular dependencies. So, how we could solve this? So let's see our example. So we have 4 layers, and let's focus on a simple one. And the problem is that we didn't block possibility to import the same elements on the same level. So how could we solve this? Well, we could add additional level, and if we do this, it will look like that. So right now, instead of 4 layers, we have 5. But there are a few problems with that. First of all, there are right now 5 levels, but it won't solve the issue, but because well, probably will need also features slash common, data access slash common, use slash common, and much more, and we'll end with 8, 10, or 20 different levels. And when new developers came to the project, they will struggle with figuring out why you have so many layers. And there is another problem. If you apply this rule, then those rules will be applied to any domain. So the main domain will get it, shared domain will get it, and any other domain also will get it, which is maybe not the expected solution. So, how can we do this differently? Well, as I already said, tags are multidimensional, so we could introduce third level of these tags. So let's see how this could work, and let's see the example. So we have shared domain, and we would like to extend those tags only in small part of it, in a UI layer. So we could introduce this there. But we are not done yet. There is another problem that sooner or later we'll discover it. So let's assume you are a front-end developer and you are working on an application where there is an authorization library. And at that moment, this library is pretty simple. It takes token from the window and do authorization. But there is a change in the requirements. Right now, your business would like to add login screen. So how could we solve this? Well, we could add this authorization screen to the UI layer. But there is a problem with that. Right now, our functionality is split in multiple directories, and it is hard to say on a directory level where this functionality ends. Well, how could we do this differently? Maybe create a domain from there. Good point, but there is one problem with that. I think this is small functionality for something called domain, and the domain should focus on business things, and if your authorization isn't the core of the business, then it shouldn't be there. So how can we solve this differently? Well, we could move it in other place, and for example in shared domain. And this solves the issue. But when, you might ask, when to do the first or second solution? So when we should split the functionality, or when we should group it? Well, unfortunately, I don't have the answer for that. It depends on the case. Each of the solutions has its own pros and cons. But the idea is here to iterate faster. So the NX will allow you to do such changes, and if one solution won't work for you, then you will be able to change it very fast. So we speak today about what to do, and we know how the process should look like. We also know what tools we should use. And right now we also know how to do this. But we still didn't speak about one very important thing that almost no one is speaking in a conferences like that. Does it have disadvantages? Yes, it has. It is slower. It is slower comparing to event storming, and it will take time to discover domains. But you can wait for your business. You can wait for them to discover how their business works. Or you can let your directory structure help understand your business and make dreams come true. My name is Marcin Ludwig, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we don't have a lot of time for questions, but let's sit for a moment and see if I can bring at least one. Okay, this is not going to be short, but if you can try, could you give us a simple example of what model is in DDD? Like for those asking, it got some upvotes.
It isn't like a. There is no one definition of a model. Model might be, for example, because it's like a repetition. Yeah, you have domain, and then you are dividing your domain into small elements. Then you're dividing your subdomain into smaller ones called bounded context, and in those you can have a module. You can, but you don't have to. It depends how complex your application it is. A module for me is like a small piece of element, and in context of this presentation, I could call every component a module. If you will create a very good API for that, so like I'm specialized in a frontend, so I'll speak about this one. So if you think about a module can be a small button, or something which is doing very good job. Small button, maybe bigger module might be for a form which is doing a bigger functionality, and if you take something bigger, for example, design system. Yeah, so it's like you're building your elements from a bigger structure.